Hey, what's going on? Coach Luka back here with the Vigor Life podcast, and today we got a special guest. Cool situation, because we didn't even know we were going to do the podcast, but we have Adriell Mays in town. If you go on IG, you might know him as Every Goddamn Dre, which, by the way, if you don't, you better go follow this man because he's a savage. But, you know, we've been hanging out, doing training, and we were like, hey, let's do a podcast episode for a number of reasons. Because he's not out there enough. I mean, let me take that back. The guy's out there enough because there's a ton of people following him, but his story, the way he's doing things, what I really wanted to do was have a conversation, because the conversation we had on Friday, just having dinner, was phenomenal. And there's so many takeaways, so many lessons of how to be a better coach, how to train better, how to build your career in fitness. It's like, I mean, I'm talking about the A to the Z steps. And I'm gonna extract it out of him for you guys now, because there's two things I want to talk to you about, man. Like, it's one, I want to talk about training, and how you got to, you know, your training philosophy and the way that you're training that a lot of people around the world are absolutely loving. And then the other thing I really want to dive into too is your kind of journey as a coach, because I mean, I absolutely love that, you know, this man is still coaching a lot. You'll hear about it. And killing it online, doing it all the right way, the way that I try to preach for Fit Pros to do it. So, but I want to kind of reel it back and first start with the training side of things, because we have a lot of, you know, you used to play high level sports, got quite beat up, same as I did, which led you to different styles of training. But like, I really want to know, you know, most people know you from the kettlebell training side of things, and you do amazing work there. But like, what led you to that? You know what I'm saying? Like, what was the journey of like, all right, this is how I train, and this is what's leading me to this approach, you know, to where you are today?
I would say mostly just training more people, from learning and dealing with different type of people with different type of limitations. I started to explore stuff for their programming, and I wasn't really into my programming. It was what it was. Like, I was training as an athlete, like I was bodybuilding or whatever I was doing. But when I started working with people that couldn't do that stuff, I had to start exploring a lot of different movements. And when I was doing it with them, I was like, oh, this could work for me as well. And actually, a lot of the stuff I needed as well. So I started kind of like, all right, I'm gonna practice this stuff as it's for these clients. And it became more about what I was doing, and it was they were benefiting from it.
Was that a lot of like, you know, when you're doing it, and I know what you mean by that, like, when I say stuck in a way, I've been training a certain way for a long time, but I'm coaching a client, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you have to get creative, like, this shit's not working. So then you do another thing, and then they're like, oh man, yeah, this is great, this feels good. Then you go like, well, shit, let me try that, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, then you try and you go like, damn, I'm onto something. But it's like, you can't, you know, one of the things that we talked about is like, you can't really do that if you're not working with people. So I really kind of, you know, take me back to when you like started, you know what I mean? Like, it was like first year of official coaching. You know, where'd you go? Like, how did because I always like to peel it back for somebody that's had a success in the industry. What were the beginning phases like? Because there's a lot of lessons there. You know what I mean?
It was. So the beginning phase was a lot of just me training and trying to get people to do stuff that what I knew. And I don't think I knew a lot. Like, I knew how to train myself to a point where I could get some results, but I didn't really have any structure. But I was also coming from playing sports, so I had like a little background from what they were going. But when I started working with people, and you start to see like, oh, this doesn't work for them. So you gotta like really kind of figure out where and how you can do it. And then I was also working at a gym where I wasn't really exposed to the knowledge of training.
So this was like the first gym that you started coaching at? Yeah.
There was no way for me to get the information or to learn. Like, I don't even think at that point I had a certification. I was fit, and I looked like I knew what I was doing. So it was like, all right, you can figure this piece out. So I had no clue how to train. And I was working with people, and I was just having them do good workouts. That's what I call it. Like, a lot of people can give you a good workouts. Not many people can put you through training sessions. There's a difference in that. And I didn't know that in the beginning. I just know how to do a good workout. You're gonna sweat, you're gonna feel like it was hard, but you're not really progressing to anything.
See, I love that you're saying this and keeping it real, because it's like, put it this way, there's a lot of holier than thou people that will go like, you know, like, it's like, but you start somewhere, and it's like if you get better, right? That's the win. It's just what we talked about is like if somebody is taking their first step into fitness and it's Zumba or it's whatever it may be, right? Like to judge that thing is crazy because it's like they're doing something good for themselves. I think that in the Fit Pro space, it's the same thing. Like you're like, man, I'm an athlete. I know what I was doing for myself. So here's what I'm gonna do. And then through the process, you go like, all right, this ain't doing it. But you become curious, and then you go further, kind of like down a rabbit hole. But like what part in a rabbit hole do you start? And I don't want to label you anything because I know your training and you do different modalities, but like you're labeled a kettlebell guy, right?
Kettlebell guy.
Which I don't think is a bad thing whatsoever. But it's like what brought you to that? Like, man, I love this tool, and like I'm gonna use this tool more than I use other tools. Which, by the way, like if anybody's like kettlebells, like why this guy's putting up numbers, like you'll see him doing single leg work with barbells and stuff like that a lot of people can't do, which is what I love. Because as soon as somebody talks shit, it's like actually this transfers well. But what was the segue to where you started changing your programming and going like, man, I love this tool. Like I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole of like learning this tool.
So it was mostly when I was working with people because of the lack of knowledge. I'm trying to put everybody on a barbell.
Yeah.
And we run into people who was like, this doesn't look good. Like this person shouldn't be lifting a barbell. But you don't want to peel too far back and just body weight everything because you need that load piece. So the kettlebell was like the only piece of equipment, dumbbells as well, where I felt like I can get everything out of it. So it became a tool I was using for clients. I really wasn't using it for myself, but I was using it for clients that I felt like couldn't get under a bar or shouldn't be under a bar. And I was using it with them. But I wanted to be able to do more with them than just the body weight tools or the mobility stuff that we were doing. I wanted them to build strength as well. So the kettlebell really allowed us to do that. So that's how I went that way with it.
One of the things you mentioned yesterday when we were training, I really loved is like you said, and two, like I'm completely on board with this, by the way, but you were like, man, like I do everything almost in like staggered stance positions. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's the conversation of the clients that you're training. Like, what do they really need in the real world? What do they want? And most people like, hey, I want to look better. I want to be stronger. Very few people are like, put me in a powerlifting comp. Like I want to tell my mom I lifted XYZ numbers, right? It's just, it's not there. But what they need is, they definitely need core strength, stability, single leg stability for a lot of stuff they do in life. And you said, man, like I almost stagger everything, right?
Everything.
But how would it like? Was that something that you kind of were like, man, like I should start doing this because you started using with clients? But like even if somebody watches your videos, it's like a lot of stagger stance, stagger stance. But I can see how that transfers to so many different things.
Well, it's like for me, it was like a time crunch thing. It's like there's certain times where you feel like I'm gonna train stability. You know what I mean? It was like, I don't even want to cut out no more time for that. So I had to, stagger stance puts you in a lot of positions where you got to build stability. So I'm like, instead of just doing a standing straight barbell press, I'm going to do stagger stance, force myself to improve my stability while I'm in this stance. Because now I'm getting a lot more out of it. Like I get to allow them to focus not just on the press, but how they feel stable in their stance. So it's a lot more just building up than just overhead pressing.
You know what that is? That's a real world coach answer. Yeah. It's like I got 45 minutes. I used to train at a gym that had this, not under my control, but it was like 30-minute sessions. And and some people bought 30-minute sessions, and I had to administer 30-minute sessions. Yeah. So imagine that somebody goes like, yeah, but what's optimal? Now look, in my gym, I do what I want as far as like the training session. But the reality is nobody's going to do a 2-hour training session. They don't have time, right? They got maybe an hour. Yeah, correct. I wish, right? But if you got a 30, now it's like, well, shit, like what do I do? Because I got to get the big rocks, but I do, man, like this person doesn't have great mobility. This person doesn't have great stability. Okay, maybe we reverse workout it a little bit, right? You start having to do that. Like, oh, this person, everything hurts. So maybe we start with, mobility, and then we do accessory exercises first, and then we stagger them so we get right. It's like that's a real world coach answer, and you go like, man, this is good. Like I'm getting a lot of. It's like not an either or, it's an and situation, But like this is the other thing too that I'm interested in. Like when you started coaching, you know, the first phase, you're like, man, I'm figuring it out. When did you start like getting busy, and what led you to get busy initially as an in-person coach?
I would say just paying attention to the details of it, of how to like build up and like retain clients as well. So I would say getting busy, like as far as I guess like word getting out about like my style of training. And like my biggest thing was like I knew how to get people results, like a push right away, like this is what we're doing, we have a plan, we're gonna push. So I guess that kind of helped me like build up the client. But I think for me personally, it was when I was actually programming for people. Like I had a plan and I felt like I was confident in what I was doing. Like I was going to the gym knowing like I can like change people's lives with the little information I do know. And as I constantly started to build up, my client base just kept going up and kept going up as I was open to learning more and not thinking I knew everything.
Was it mostly just like referrals, word of mouth? Is there something that you were like, I'm actually marketing it this way, I'm doing these little things that make a difference?
I think it was a little bit of that, but also I think the big probably push was how I looked. Like I was physically fit. Like you look at me and you probably say, oh, like, this guy knows what he's doing.
See, that's real though.
Yeah.
We talked about this, by the way, right? Like, and the conversation ended up being like, okay, you have to acknowledge that is a thing that people care about, because I have the joke and I go like, you wouldn't go to dentist with wooden teeth. You know what I mean? You'd be like, bro, like you ain't working on me, right? And while I don't believe that that's the thing that makes you a great coach, the thing is, it's like the first step. You know what I mean? That there has to be some type of just like to a girl, it's like there's got to be some attraction to step into that space and then be like, man, they're amazing in all these other ways, right? I do believe that like that as a coach, you got a responsibility to, you know what it is to that I believe is more so that you walk the walk. You know, we talked about the audio matching the video, but I think this is a good lesson and something for people to hear, to be like, whether it's fortunately or unfortunately, right? You got a coach that maybe knows their stuff better. You got somebody that like looks the part. A lot of people are gonna pick that person, right? Like mostly. You know what I'm saying? It just and that's the reality. So it's like the acceptance of reality. Now, this is where it's like you should look the part and then just get as great as you can at the right. Like exactly. So I think it's not it's not an either or. It's an and you have responsibility. But to me, it's like for everybody listening, it's like, man, if you did that, it's gonna help you out, right? Yeah. So to go on your own journey and whatever that journey looks like, but to continue to improve yourself, health, performance, body composition, because it's gonna help your coaching career.
100%. And it's not. Nobody's saying you need to be completely shredded. It's just more so like I feel like what helped me is, and I told you before, like I didn't have the knowledge of training, but you don't get to know the knowledge until you meet me. You know what I mean? So I can't walk in and meet someone and know like, oh, that person knows everything. I'm gonna look at them and decide like, do they know what they're teaching? So the first introduction like is I see two people and I'm most likely they normally pick the more fit person. And at that moment it was me. I didn't have the knowledge, but once I figured out I had something that drove people in, I started to gain the knowledge of like, all right, I'm getting clients because I may look a certain way. And now it's time for me to gain the knowledge to be able to keep these clients and actually help these people, because otherwise then there's no point to it.
And because you also, again, like I always try to unravel this, like let's just call it big box gym, right? But the approach beyond, once you started learning more, what was your approach to not only get, more clients, but because we talked a little bit about this, actually, I want to dive into like, you've had clients now for like a long time. Like you're another person that has like crazy retention. You can't really even take new people on. But, once you're like, all right, I'm pretty damn busy. Like I figured out how to get good results. Like I have a process. What were the things that to you, looking back now and going like that were the difference maker with your clients staying with you for so long? And not only staying with you for so long, you said like most people train with you like 3 to 4 days a week, which is definitely above average for, I mean, I coach a lot of fit pros and it's like, that's not the average amount of time people train, but like that's most of your clients are like 3 to 4 days a week and been with you for, I mean, you even said like, I don't know how many like years, right? What do you think is the reasoning that is the case, like from a perspective of customer experience, retention, the way that you work with and operate with your clients?
Well, I feel like it's a lot of things. I feel like, I mean, at this point, I feel like I'm probably family to them. Like I know just as much about them as they know about me. They always understand where we are and where we're trying to go on our fitness journey or just on our journey, period. Like everything, what we do, I pay attention to when anything that's going on with them, just being there, being more than just a coach. I don't really speak too much X's and O's with them. It's more so like personal, like we having a session. That's like the one thing I do hate that we preach early in the training world. We say don't cross that trainer friend barrier. But like that's the barrier that gets you to keep clients longer, because if you always treat me like a customer and I've been working you with years, it's like how does that make them feel? You know what I mean?
That's a great point.
This is very transactional.
Transactional instead of transformational. Yeah. See, I think that like you bringing this up is like, because we wear so many hats, right? It's like that you can still wear, like, give my client what they need and be a pro, but care, because it's like, how do you care? Because caring is, that makes it personal, right? Actually, you know what, this is crazy. So if you look up the definition of client, it means to be under someone's care, right? And so I think a lot of people take that for granted, because it's like, oh, my clients. I'm like, do you treat them like they're under your care? Because the thing that you brought up to me was just like, this guy's a very, very busy guy, by the way, but it's like you go to their kids' games, out of your crazy schedule. Like you go to your clients' kids' games, you know what's going on with them, you know what's going on in their lives, you know what I mean? Like, and the reality is most people, they don't even have friends that know what's going on with them. They don't even have employees or a team employees know what's going on, but you do. You know what I'm saying? And it's like when somebody can't show up to the game, but you do. And the thing is like there has to be, personal training is personal. You know what I'm saying? Personal. And by the way, because you do, like, that's the other thing too, is important. Like you do pretty much all your offline in person is all one-on-one training, right? One-on-one. And it's like that's become kind of like the brand. You don't
our sessions 101.
Yeah. And so again, like when it comes to that, are you just like I'm just very interested in this. Do you have like any type of system around it, or is it literally like, man, because you don't have a ton of clients, because the clients that you have, you train them. You see them often. Yeah. There's just like, I got fewer people and I just like know all this stuff because I don't have 50, 60, 70 clients, which obviously then becomes more of a management.
You lose track of it. I did that. I mean, that's the route when I was working at Equinox. The game was to get more clients, because if someone leaves, you have people there. But my thing was like, have fewer clients training more often. That was always my case. I always had fewer clients that were training more often, because I was able to get them to understand, to get to where we want to be at, we need to be consistent with this. And the idea was, the more I have control over your schedule and what you're doing, the more we're going to be able to, because you have some people like, oh, I want to do one time a week. All right, but I can give you structure for the rest of the week, and I have to trust that you're going to do it. And most people know, like, likely not going to happen. Like, probably go to the gym probably a couple times, not really, and it will take us longer to get to our journey. So I'm like, let's give me complete control of your workouts. 3 times a week, 3-4 times a week, and we're going to be able to get this done, because now I know what you're doing when you're in the gym. Anything you do outside of our session is extra, because in those 3 or 4 sessions, we're going to get everything done in that week, or however long it takes.
But because for people to be able to coach 3 or 4 days a week, obviously that's quite a bit of investment, but that means that you built up to having a specific type of clientele. And what, like, because at the beginning, I'm assuming that it wasn't straight off like that, right?
No, it wasn't.
You built up to it. But was that pretty much all where it becomes like referrals and word of mouth, where like, man, like this guy's getting great results. So now you're getting more people like that, and all of a sudden you kind of get essentially pick and choose, right?
Yeah, you do. I mean, you kind of get a reputation for being a certain type of trainer. So like, again, what I talked about you yesterday, when people came in and asked for like a hard style, like no bullshit trainer, which a lot of people asked for that, actually. Yeah. I was the guy that they were kind of referring to, because that's how I was. It was like, no BS, this is what we're doing, this is how we're gonna get there. Let's do it.
See, that's a very, very important point to make, because how do you stand out? Because you essentially stood out.
Yeah.
It's like who you're gonna be. right? And then spreading that message. Now the thing is, like, this is what I'm interested in too, because for you getting busy in person, what was that point that like it clicked for you where you're like, man, I'm gonna start like doing stuff online? You know what I mean? Because you know, when we had that conversation, it wasn't like you started doing stuff online and had this elaborate plan for it to blow up and then start doing programs online and this, that, and the other. Like what was the process of, actually even the timeline, like when did you start doing stuff on Instagram or other channels where you started posting things?
So when COVID happened, I mean, I had more time.
That was the beginning?
That was the beginning.
Okay.
The beginning. Right in the beginning, I was working out at home then. I was still training people. Like, it was kind of like the spring, so we were training outside because we didn't have a gym. I had 1 kettlebell and 2 dumbbells. We would train outside. So all the clients that I had when I was training a person, I was able to train them outside. So we continued that piece. But for my own training now, I had more time because people weren't working. So our workouts were like, oh, we work out in the morning. The rest of the day I had to myself. So now I was working out at home, but now it's like filming. And every randomly, I'll post up a couple clips from a couple workouts just randomly on my Instagram. Before that, my Instagram was just like dead. Like, I never used it for fitness or anything else. But I'll randomly post like
it was kind of like a personal, like, hey friends, what's up? This is what I'm doing.
I
would
always make the joke, like, all my posts was like my birthday one year and the year before. My next post was my birthday the year before, and the year before, like, I'll post on my birthday each year. That was it. That was all the posts I had. So I started posting, and I would get like I would get some feedback. People comment. I was like, oh, you do more of this. And then, I mean, I was working out every day. So I was like, oh, I'll just take clips from each workout and I'll just put it up. And I was just putting it up while I'm still working because my job still required me to be attentive. Like, I couldn't just be. But the plan was never to go online because I had a full business in person, so I didn't need to do online. I was just doing that because, oh, it was fun. It was getting a little buzz, so I'll just keep doing it. And after a year go by, it just started to grow up. And then the demand, people kept asking for like programming and stuff. Look, I had nothing written for people, but I was like, I have what I'm doing, and I was just giving it to people. So I'm not gonna charge you for something that I didn't actually sit down and write for you. And so as it came, like, it was too many people asking. I was like, maybe I need to create something that I can actually give people. But that happened, that took almost a year. So to that point, I was just giving free stuff because I didn't have anything I wanted to sell, nor did I felt like I needed to sell anything because I had a business already. Like, my business was in-person training. And I'm so personable with our training that I didn't want to go the online route because
you felt like, this is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like your mind goes like, shit, like online. I mean, that's a whole other business. So like, man, I'm gonna have to do X, Y, Z on it, right? And at that point in time, were you coaching as much? Like, I shared it earlier, but like, you're 30 to 35.
Yeah, it was still the same. It was still around the same, maybe a little bit less because of COVID, but it was still around the same. So I didn't have the need for it, nor did I feel like I wanted to make the time for it. And because of how I train, I had this idea that everyone should have like a personalized,
completely customized program,
which really killed me in the beginning because you find that actually takes time amongst me training my other people. Like, I didn't have time to create personal programs. Now I'm talking about like thousands of people asking. And in reality, I started thinking for myself, I'm like, how many times have I went online and coaches I've grabbed programs and the programs worked for me perfectly just because I'm at that level, or I was a little bit below it, but still I was able to. And I was like, all right, well, maybe everybody don't need personalized programs if you can program well and you can actually have regressions and stuff for people. So I was like, oh, I'll play with it a little bit, but still I didn't put anything out because I wanted to be perfect when I put it out. And I didn't have time to create it. So after a while, I finally created around once I had like 50,000 followers or whatever. And I finally created a program for people to have, because people for so long have just been using what I was posting. I was like, I want something like more structured. And I was like, all right. And I finally put it together.
And but the first one you said too was like simple PDF.
Simple PDF. And I would say it was a program that I created for myself, which was like an 8-week program, and I worked it off through there. I created it, tried to make it a little basic for people, and I just put it out. And it was just because people were asking for it. I felt like I had to at that point. I felt like I had to.
Yeah, I mean, but this is another thing too we talked about, right? As far as like giving so much, the values there. And it's like, you got such overwhelming feedback to be, it's like it triggered you.
Yeah.
If one person hit you, you might have been like, man, I'm not going to do anything yet. But it's like, you start getting hundreds of people. I mean, even tens, because to me, it's like for every 10 people to hit you up, there's 50 or 60 that don't but they want it. You know what I mean? Like, or more. You got hundreds or you got thousands now. It's like, hold up, man. Like this, there's something here. But like, how did the first one do? And what even made you? Because I'm gonna keep bringing this back to like, you still coach in person a lot, which I love, right? But to where you were like, all right, like this makes sense. Like, did the first one do well when you punch it out there?
The first one did really well, because I think because
people waiting.
It was so delayed. It was so delayed. Like someone else in a different position probably would have done it probably months or probably a year before I did it. Like it was very delayed before I put it out. Like it was past due. Like it was supposed to be out.
See, I think that's the magic though, man. Yeah. It's funny. I mentioned this to you, but I mean, I'm probably like hella years late on dropping stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, but when I did, it did really well. My friend Ben Bruno, amazing coach. Like, Pat, we talked about being past due with him, did great. But again, so much value, so much content, so long of people asking before it was dropped. And I think there's a lesson there, because I think Alex Hormozi said this, right? It's like that give until they ask, right? Unless you're an established platform, Netflix, Netflix or Facebook or whatever else, give, ask works, but like it doesn't work if you're in the beginning phases remember, beginning phases could be like you be killing it offline, but offline is like online is different, right? Yeah. So you got to a point where it was just so much demand that you gave so much, and then people asked you, and then you were like, all right, let me drop this. You know what I mean? And how did that lead to? Because damn, I'm looking back. So this is like 3.5. Basically, you started about 3.5 years ago, online ago, and then now it's like from that PDF. Because I do want to I want to unwrap a little bit and I want to give people confidence in like, one, giving more, because that's one of the things that you continue to constantly give content and drop it. And I'm gonna say here loud that you're gonna start a podcast, because I had conversations with this guy. I'm like, dude, you gotta get more of this out there. He's so much knowledge and so much value. But you continue to give a ton. But then what was the process of when, all right, cool, I this is working. Like, man, this did well. Like, what do I do next online? Because while at the same time, you're not dropping your in-person coaching,
no.
You're coaching just as much. So for I think we live in a world now where it's like, hey, I believe so much in in-person coaching, and you continue to do it, but doing something hybrid where you're still obviously delivering value and getting paid for it. What was step 2 after that initial, I dropped the program? Like for you,
I was feeling good at that point. I was like, oh, I have something going there. I'm still training in person. But it wasn't until the program, I think it was 8 weeks. So typically, you would love to think people do 8 weeks right away. Yeah, it doesn't happen that way. Normally, it takes people probably 12 weeks to finish an 8-week program or whatever. Then I had start people messaging me again, like, all right, what's next?
What's next? Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, then what's next? I don't know. I'm like, I don't have anything after this. Is like, this was my first one. This was it. Like, I didn't have anything. So again, I feel like, and I still do it to this day. Now I'm starting to catch on it more, but then the next program after that didn't come out for another 8 months. So it's
and that was a standalone.
And that one was a standalone. So people were wondering constantly what was next for a while. But again, I'm still training in person. So I have to sit down and take time to create a program, because I'm not just throw anything together. That's not who I am and what I represent. So I want to really put some time into it. And it took me that long to actually sit down and create another program. But when I did, I brought out 2 programs at this moment, and both of them crushed. Because again, they were my following kept growing, and people wanted, have been giving out more and more content, and people wanted more of that. They wanted something to follow, they can have every day. They wanted something they can have, write it down. But I didn't have the time for it.
And what did you build the actual website for that too? You know what I'm saying? Because at first, did you just drop products and then afterwards built the site, or did you have a site?
So no, I did the site as I was going to do. Like I put the site up and then the products came right after. But I didn't have a site either.
Gotcha.
I didn't need a site.
But that's the kicker, man. That's what, like, demand, right? It's like demand create. I always say, like, there should be more demand than there's supply to the degree, right? There's more demand for you as a in-person coach than you can supply. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the lesson. I think that's the lesson too. Like, if you're tuning in, it's like sometimes I'll look at the camera because I'm like, I want to point to you and make a point. But is that, like, you want to create demand, and demand gets created through value. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I just show up. I think that the great analogy of even online stuff is this, right? If you go walk through the mall and, like, you know how it'll be like, man, try this Kung Pao chicken, and you're like, man, it's just, don't do it. And then you try it and you're like, oh shit, this is good. Where can I get some more, right? I believe that that's really what you're doing online, whatever platform it's through. If it's podcast, somebody listens to an episode and like, damn, like that's a lot of value. Subscribe, let me listen to a little bit more, right? Somebody watches your video, like you're like, oh man, this guy put up this whole training session. Damn, that's different. Let me try it. Man, I feel good, right? Like it's not the traditional strength training I'm doing where I feel beat up. I did this session and I'm like feeling like, buttery hips, but it's tough, but like, cool, let me try another one. Oh, let me see what else he's doing. And then there's so much value that you're like, all right, well, I want, like, can I get something structured from you? So it's connected. And then it becomes like, man, I'm so bought in, like, can you give me an ongoing program? You know what I mean? Like, because what was the point in time that you were like, all right, I'm going to build continuity behind this, and I'm going to do monthly programs? Because you do have that, right?
Yeah, I do. Just the demand for it was like, I was being overwhelmingly asked for more stuff that I didn't have. And I was like, so I probably should have it. In my mind, I'm like, I probably should have it, but I was like, again, I got to find the time to have this stuff, and it has to be good, because I'm not going to just put anything out there, because now I've created this path of giving out good work, so I have to continue to do that. So I have to, but it was just people just constantly asking me. So, I mean, at this point, probably PDF programs, probably have like 10 different PDF programs, and I literally have some people that have bought all 10. Man. And it's just because they're bought in, and they felt the benefits of what training in a certain way have given them, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. It's like a lot of people describe it as like empowering. It's like you do something that you haven't done and you get more out of it than you expected. It completely changes your outlook on it.
Yeah, because I mean, I seen it. I went in, because I'll do that too. Like I'm always researching. I looked at the reviews of people are writing for your programs and stuff, and it's like, man, these reviews are crazy.
It's crazy, right? It'll make you want to grab something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, it does, because you're like, even how like if you're, and I think great coaches should do that and do this, right? Like, you should study other people's stuff. You know what I mean? I don't care how good you are. Like, to me, it's like there's always stuff to learn. Like when we're training, like I'm asking you questions, I'm looking at stuff, man. I'm like, that's the whole point. Like if you ever feel like you arrived at you're beginning at the end, right? Yeah. But to me, it's like, what I found like very interesting, and the reason I'm like, man, I want to talk to you about this, is because you're very busy, and it's like, it's cool to also have people here that like, man, I didn't have shit figured out. Like, I still don't have some shit figured out. We talked about like, like, oh, YouTube, man, you got crazy opportunity there. Man, you should do this, you should do that, right? And you're like, man, like, I can't do that. I don't have enough, bandwidth. And it's like, but this is what it's like, right? Like, you figure it out by doing the thing. Like, you didn't sit there and go, man, like, I think I should do this. I'm just gonna build something from scratch. Like, you put out a ton of value, what you thought was great. And then you get the whole like questioning and demand. It's like, okay, I got to create something for this demand, right? But first you do the work, then you get the feedback.
It's a lot of work that come before it. It's a lot of work.
But it's with, how, like, what does it look like for you too? This is, I think a lot of people get interested with how people that are doing well operate, right? Because you said you're doing 30 to 35 one-on-ones per week right now, and you're running your online stuff. And, you said it too. It's like, man, the online isn't as much work as I thought that it would be, right? But when you look at your week, like, how do you operate? You know what I'm saying? Like, and also too, I don't, what's your balance as far as like, where do you get like the woo-saw moment to go back and do your thing? And because I mean, personally, I love that. I think that's a big lesson for everybody. It's like, this man's crushing online, but man, you're in the real world coaching people, 35 hours a week, one-on-ones, and consistently applying and learning and getting all this feedback for you to continue to make, great programs online. But like, give me a little 10,000-foot view of what does your day and week look like right now as a coach?
I mean, typically I still do those 5:30, 6 o'clock sessions most days. I'm training then. A lot of my one-on-one sessions usually happen 5:30 to like noon.
So all in morning? Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mostly morning. I got a couple in the evening, but I try to get most in the morning, and at midday I'm really like, my workout happens and any content I need to get in is from that 12 to like 3 window, and I may have like a few straggler sessions at night.
Okay.
So it's typically in there, and I'll try to work in that area where I get like my meals in and all that stuff. But mostly a lot of my training, the good thing about my in-person training is I actually enjoy it. So it's people that I've been training for some years. So I look forward to seeing them, whether I'm seeing them on a different day of the week. So I look forward to seeing them and talking to them about what's going on with them or what's going on with me, anything new. They're excited about how I'm growing online. So it's good to talk to them about that, anything. So those don't drain me as much as they used to when I worked with the gym. Like I looked at it differently. Like now these people I'm working with now, like I look forward to seeing them.
Yeah.
So those don't really pull much out of me.
It's like what I'm hearing too is like, and I made this point a number of times, is like that doesn't drain your energy.
No.
Right? Like it gives you energy because you're like, man, I want to me it's always been like, would you love those people so much and love training that like, man, you kind of would do it for free? But, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it comes that sometimes. It's like you trust them to this point now. It's like, it should be probably should be more structure, like with the pain and all that stuff. But you've been training them so long, it's like you get a little lenient. It's like it's family at this point, and it happens that way. It just so happens I get paid to work with them. But like with them. Yeah, these people I look forward to working with.
See, but there's another lesson there, because I do feel like, every story that you ever hear of somebody that has succeeded as a coach is, like at the beginning, I know when I worked at a big box gym, there were people I was like, man, I gotta train this person too. Like it started draining my energy just thinking about it, right? Like, and I think that you kind of, you go through that and you learn who you love to coach, and you get better at coaching and getting referrals and retention and marketing and all these different things. And then you get to a point where it's like, man, you have a group of people that you love coaching, and it's not like you don't feel like I gotta coach them. Now you get to coach them, man. You should be excited about that and build that base. And I think it comes back to this, right? This is such a crazy point to me, right? To make, if you have 10 clients, right, that train with you 3 days a week, for most people that's a full schedule if it's one-on-one, right? I mean, or it's there, and that can make you a really good living, right? Especially if you become a sought after coach, right? And then that gives you, you create, let me take that back. It doesn't give you create the time to then do things like, online programs, online coaching, other avenues, because I think that what's cool for you is that like you've created so much value that, now I'm actually going to ask you first before I riff and give you my 2 cents, But it's like, when you look forward, we've talked about this, what one of the goals is, but I'd love to, hear like where your mind goes, like, what does Dre want to build moving forward? You know what I mean?
As far as online or just in general?
Both, just in like the vision, you know what I'm saying? Like,
just something that allows me, because at this point I know what it feels like to be able to reach a lot of people, and I want to keep doing that. So something that allows me to keep growing and kind of reach more people in a way where they understand just different styles of training and different ways of training. So again, what we spoke about, like with the podcast thing, was just getting my voice out there more, because for the few years that I have been in online presence, I haven't done a ton of talking, because I told you I should be able to, I look at certain people, I should be able to know that you actually represent what you say before you say it.
Yeah.
So like, I don't really care what you have to say. I'm gonna watch your actions. So I feel like I've spent a lot of time showing what I was about, and now I can kind of like voice it more, because I feel like I've proven like this is really who I am, like in all of my actions and everything I do, keep the message consistent. So now when I say something, you're like, I would expect you to say that, because you've shown me everything that represents you.
Man, that's such a powerful kind of, I would say, frame about like even online brand, right? Because it's like, and we talked about this, like you see something and then you meet the person, and it's like, you're like, whoa, this is not connecting the dots for me, right? Like my first thing is when we met was like connect the dots, but number two is like, man, you got to share more of this, right? Because again, you got to earn it, and like to me, earning it is like how much value you create in the marketplace for everybody that wants to. I think at this point in time, there's few people that don't want to. Think about a coach is always like, I want to create impact, right? And you said it. It's like, man, you want to create more impact. I know for me, I got hooked on when any of the social media or podcasts or YouTube, as it's grown, is that when people hit you up and go like, thank you, this helped me so much. This gave me so much insight. This changed my life. Like, that's the stuff that fuels me to like do more, right? So it's like let's just say the intent behind it is the right intent. Now it's very easy to say this shit on podcasts or like, hey, I do it for, but somebody's actually just like chasing, clout or money. And don't get me wrong, like those things are all good. Like nobody should feel bad about trying to make more money. But if the intent is helping, if the intent is serving, you know what I mean? Like good things are gonna happen, and it's like you'll be fueled by it. And like, from what you've done and what you continue doing, that's a foundational thing, and you can tell it. You know what I'm saying? And then only when you start getting the demand, you're like, oh shit, let me solve these problems and sell it in a program or sell it in a thing, right? But also, like you brought this up, I don't know if you want to bring it up, but talking about like gym and building community and stuff.
Definitely. Like I would love to be able to have a gym of my own and kind of be able to, because I like the in-person, and be able to have a community of people as well and kind of grow in that aspect of it.
See, I wanted to bring it up so you get held accountable. I'm gonna cut this clip.
Yeah, so that's
this clip out.
That's always in the works. Like that's my biggest vision, to be able to have something that I built from the ground up and it be my own, and it represent what I represent. Yeah. And have a lot of people that want to buy into that. Not only the fitness side of it, but like the mindset side of it. So it's just like a constant growth and evolving as humans.
See, what's cool, I think, and the like for you built a brand, right? And it continues to obviously grow. But then when you create a physical space, like you have the brand to be able to drive that community. Now, obviously, like that's going to be physical, so not everybody can come from all over the place.
But some people will.
But they will, because it becomes. So this is the thing, and you've seen this where places become destination gyms, right? I heard this story too about it was the Arnold in Vegas, and I don't know if you heard of Dragon's Lair. No, it's like it's a gym. It's a very like bodybuilding based gym. Like so, if you like, I would go there because it's like I'm like, oh man, they got dope machines. So when I'm feeling like I'm gonna bust out a bodybuilding workout, I'm in there. But man, they were having 2,000 drop-ins per day during the Olympia, right? And at like $50 or something, like so it's just insane. In a week they did some wild numbers. Yeah. But because I bring this up because it's a destination gym for that specific kind of like niche, right? Like, so I think there is like a I would say like a very smart way of going about it, where you got, hey, locally, like this is what we do, this is our community, and it's like tight knit, and like, hey, you draw the line, like this is what we stand for, this is what we stand against. It's like, if you like this is not for you. But it also becomes a place where people like, man, I'm gonna fly to Boston, and like, yo, I'm going there. You know what I'm saying? Definitely. And having people come through. I mean, like this gym has become a destination gym for education, because we do so much education that is like, man, like people will be like, yo, it's at Vigor, all right, cool, let us come through, because they always got dope events. But I think the lesson, again, it keeps rerouting back. This is why I ask you the questions. Is like, you build something, there's a lot of demand, then you give the people what they want, and then you build it and more demand, and then you give them what they want. You know what I mean? Because what I see a lot of is like, oh, like I'm not gonna do like the work to build the demand and give the value. Like I'm just gonna drop the thing, and it's crickets, because it's like there's no demand for it. You know
Even if you have the knowledge of it, it's like, and that's where people get caught up with the title chasing, and like certifications and all that stuff is great, but there's still a lot of work that goes behind those. It's like, I learned this now. I spent the weekend doing this educational piece. All right, now let me spend years practicing what I learned. Not a couple weekends, more of it, years putting that into action with people, with real people, and not just put the title in my bio and think people think it's gonna
Hey.
be a click grab.
Pause. I need to pause to explain what this man just said. And like, again, I'm with you. Certifications, knowledge, yes. But how many times has somebody went to cert 2-3 days of like, water through fire hose, like trying to learn all this stuff? Whew, man, that was a lot. Go back, do the same thing, add maybe a little bit, versus like, let me take this and just work on it for forever. It's just like, man, I always give the basketball analogy because that was my life, right? But it's like, you go to a clinic of ball handling skills, somebody shows you something. Imagine coming back, like for you to get like world class at that drill, like you're gonna have to do it for years, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that's such a powerful point, because you could probably go to like 3 really good certifications and then spend 3 years implementing and learning and working and wrestling with the stuff you learned, and you'll probably be better off than if you go to 25 and you don't apply, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that brings me to this. I'm always intrigued and what is something that you're working on or like studying or exploring, and it doesn't even have to be like a cert or anything else. Is there something that you're fired up about right now, like that you're studying?
Not in particular. For me, it's like I'm always studying movement in general. So whether it's different ways to just work out. So like I'm obsessed. Like I know in the fitness industry we hate the variety of things, but I'm obsessed with it because I understand variety is what's going to keep me and other people in fitness longer. So while we may hate the very like idea of like too much variety doesn't give you the results that you want, I'm like, but you don't even know the results I want. Maybe I don't want the results. Maybe I just want the result of continuing to exercise. So I'm obsessed with the idea of movement and movement patterns. So I study a lot of movement patterns. So like a lot of my programming and training is very similar ways to move and train certain muscles. Well, I can get the same effect for people, but I can change the exercise or change the way I load it or add a stability factor into it. But it still has a purpose. So I've been working with that for a while.
I think, man, that's dope though. But like the point that you made, I think is really powerful. We kind of had a conversation about this, right? Like in a country where majority of people unfortunately don't exercise or move enough or dedicate the time to health and fitness that I don't even say should, but that would get them to be healthier, fitter, feel better, have more energy, have more confidence, the things that they want. What is the gateway to get them to do that? And what you're talking about is like, look, if I can get them to do that consistently, that's the gateway to them getting there. Rather than like, okay, if I'm the person that's like, no, like you got to do it like this and you got to like do it like this, but then they don't consistently do it, are we actually helping them achieve what they want, right? And that was, a great point that you made to me, because I mean, number one, you have people that continue to come and see you for years and years and years and years as personal clients. And online, you have people that continue to get every one of your programs for years and years and years. But what does that say? What it says is, man, you're getting people to consistently do the work and exercise, and that's what gets them, know what I'm saying, to the goals. And so it's important, because sometimes I get stuck in this shit too, but it's like at the end of the day, like you have to go, what is it that we're actually doing? You know what I'm saying? Because if you get 100 clients and 10 stay, but 90 don't because you try to do, you were so firm and stuck in your ways, are you actually then helping? Right?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, or do you do and adapt in a way where it's like, nah, I just want them to keep coming. And at a certain point in time, they'll go like, hey man, like, I want to try doing X, Y. I want to go, we got some people here that are 5 years into training with us. They're like, I want to try and do a powerlift to me. Cool. Right? And then somebody else goes like, yo, I want to go do this like ruck for like 12 hours. Cool. Like, right? And you adapt stuff, but you want them to keep coming so that they keep building strength and confidence and quality movement patterns, and then they'll get like a feeling of what they want to do next.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think the issue is that you almost have to take everything we know and we love and what makes us trainers and about how we want to do things and kind of forget it when it comes to working with real people that have real things going on. Because yes, I know if I put you in a structured program, bodybuilding or squatting, back squatting every week, it's going to get you the results. But you also told me you don't want to back squat every single week. So it's like, I got to kind of like forget that. And all right, I'm dealing with a human who has a little say in what we're working through, and they want to enjoy it. So how can I get them to enjoy it while still getting what I want out of it, and kind of progressing them? So it really kind of like, you got to be human with it. You can't be robotic. Like, I need to go buy the book to get you these results. It's like, no, I need to understand why you came to me and how I can keep you on a path and not make you hate working out, not make you see it as something other than what it is. It's something supposed to make you feel good. Man. It's not something that's supposed to get you these results. It's supposed to make you feel good. That's it.
See, that's such a great point.
Yeah.
Man. No, but listen, this is, we talked about kind of like the elitism of the industry a lot of times in coaching, where it's like, this is what the science says, and this is how you got to do it, and it's like, precision nutrition has this great thing, but it says like, well, how's that working for you? That shit ain't working really well, man. So what are we doing? But like, I'm always, I love having conversations with people where it's like, nah, man, this is working for people, and it's like you said, they have a say, absolutely. That's autonomy. It's part of the psychological, the science of psychology. Like you gotta feel like you have decision, and you have autonomy in what's happening. And two, like, how do you get somebody to? Because there is a percentage of people that are like, it's like it's gonna be hard, and you're gonna keep coming back for that, right? But a lot of people aren't there yet, right? And so you have to be able to go, how do I enjoy it enough to keep coming back? And you said that, like, man, like, nah, my goal is for them to like it enough to keep coming back, right? And I think that's like a massive point on that side of things.
Because you have to, especially when you think about it from our perspective, and sometimes we forget this because we've been training so long, but in the beginning of our workout journey, how much random shit did we do before
hey, dude,
had structure?
I still do. But listen, even yesterday it was like, yo, let's go through some stuff. And I think I'm enjoying, you're doing some exercise. I'm like, oh shit, that's fire. Like it's like, and then I want to do it because I want to explore. And it was, you know Vernon Griffith?
Yeah, I do.
Vernon's great, man, good friend of mine, like phenomenal. But like, he always talks about this, and he does a lot of the mobility stuff and talks about, and just in movement in general, he's like, humans are explorers. Like that's who we are. You know what I'm saying? Like it innately in us is exploring. So even for me and you could say like, oh, well, we're just coaches and whatnot. But like, there's parts of us that go like, let's try this. Oh shit, like, like, damn, this is hard. Oh, I feel that, right? Yeah. So even though I'm like, okay, cool, I want to get strong in this lift, and I'm doing a lift and so on and so forth, they're exactly what you said. I started going like to different places and going like, oh, I like this shit. I like this. And you put it together, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, and you at the same time, I know like the science of progression, everything else, but there's still a part of me that's like always seeking that out. Even today, right? Yeah. Even now, it's like, if you came in and like, bro, I got some cool stuff, like let's go do this. And I'm like, all right, cool. And at the end it's like, I enjoyed that. That was dope. So we got to understand that, yes, get back to what was our gateway, right? Exactly. What was our gateway to exercise? I remember, man, when I started training, it wasn't like somebody was like, by the way, progressive overload, we're going to do this 6-week program. It was like, let me feel this. Yeah. All right, let me do, I read this thing. It said, move it faster and you'll jump higher. Cool, let's try to do that, right? It was exploring. And I think that for many, I have some clients that legitimately, it's like, if 50, 60% of the training session ain't novel, like they would probably be like, love you, but deuce, you know what I'm saying? Like, but deuces. Yeah. And so what is the right thing to do for that person? I mean, is to give them like what they want. They have say in the journey, right? Like, and we can't just be as rigid. And to me, honestly, having this conversation with you too is like, it's sometimes a reminder for myself, you know what I mean? Where it's like you get stuck in these like, no, we got to do it like that. To really just be like, nah, there is no rule. Like it's a slice of the pie. Some people want more structure, some people want less. And it's like, how do we get them there through their journey and their choices? You know what I mean? Like that's also the reason why you got to do more shit. By the way, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you do.
You gotta launch
You
a
just have
podcast,
to. You gotta let people go through their journeys because we've been through it, and now we want them to skip the steps we went through. It don't make sense.
Yeah.
It's not fair to them because the lessons they need to learn, we're robbing them of that because we're just trying to push them through because we have the knowledge now and we know how to get them there, and we don't want them to go through all of that. We see it as wasted time because now they have someone that knows. But still, some people you are able to fast track. They're ready. But a lot of people aren't.
And the thing is, if they aren't, who are we to try to be like, you should do it this way? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And like that's definitely, you're definitely speaking in words of somebody that's in the trenches, that's with
constantly coaching
with real people, coaching real people. And like, look, I think this is another one of the points that I wanted to make is that when you talk to a lot of, or maybe even majority of coaches that are doing really well online, what you will find is that they're still in some way, or maybe in a big way, working with people, you know, face to face. And I can name the people, you know, including one of them sitting here, that same thing. You know, it's like Ben, you know, did great with the launch, but it's like coaching people all the time. Like I'm still a 23, 25 hour a week coaching people. You know what I'm saying? Like, and again, it's like, because you actually work with real people to know how they're thinking, what they're thinking, giving you feedback in the real world. I'm not saying that can't happen online, but it's like there's just a different.
It's tougher. It's
yeah,
like
it's just,
you feel it in person. Like you feel it, you know it, and you see how you create like a program. And that's the other thing we were talking about. I talked to you about like training splits, and like how sometimes people create like unrealistic realities based on like training splits. I feel like majority of gym population can be on full body splits because you give someone like a body part split, it forces them to be too disciplined. Like you have to come to the gym every single day this week to hit that body part. You miss a week, now that's one day you didn't get.
It's all
it's a
thrown
gap.
off.
It's all thrown off.
100%. Like, and that's the thing is, even like my split, I say like that's not the best split for most people, and I'm doing more full body anyways, but like for all our, you know, when I drop small group personal training mastery and people are like, oh man, I realized that it's all full body. Or it's like, I see some of these programs that you're doing, like it's like all full body. I'm like, yeah, because if you're training people 2 to 4 days a week, right, especially 2 to 3, and even if you have a lower upper lower, right, like what happens if, you know, because somebody was like, well, I got like a lower this body part. I said, okay, what if they can't come one day? Or they got to, you know, people got like, we got nurses and stuff, like they can come this day, but they can't come that day. So full body solves that solution. And you also know that like for most people, full body training is the best option, right? It's long term. Like that's by far the best, right? Now listen, I'm like, you want a different journey, like do it, no problem. But
what it is it's your journey of how you go. Like you start, like I feel like people start on like a full body split. And as you get to a point where all right, I can now go to the gym 5 days a week consistently. I've proven that I can add another day. So your programming can change to the ability of that. So like my program myself, I program 6 to 7 days because I don't allow pretty much anything to get in the way of my gym schedule. Traveling, and I'm getting 6 to 7 days in no matter what. But most people are at 3 or 2 or 3. Some people 1 to 2. So you have to program for that. So as they get more into it and they commit more, you can add those days in.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So it's a journey of it. It's like now, not only are you more fit, you're fitter, you're in better shape. So now you can have the ability to do a 4th day and a 5th day.
But only if you have the habits. Yeah, correct. But also like you've built the capacity to be like, because you know, like it takes a long time to become the person that trains 5 days a week, right? Like it's like at the beginning, it's not that. It's like if you get twice consistently, it's like it takes you time and then you become that person. And or if you do 3 times, you become that person. It takes time for you to believe you're that person. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so like it goes back to what you were saying, like don't give somebody something that's too overwhelming for who they are right now, right? Because it's like they'll feel like they're not good enough and they'll feel beat down instead of uplifted. Exactly. And again, like at the end of the day, like that's what we do. You know what I mean? So you got to put it this way, on this podcast you got to make a commitment that next week you're gonna start YouTube channel, you're gonna start this, you're gonna start that. But like here's why like I'm also encouraging this, because a lot of times when somebody's following you, like a lot of these details that are so good that I feel like people need to share. In your case, and be prepared. And you already know this too. I think this is another point I wanted to make for sure before we're done for today is that like how much do you get a good chunk of like negative feedback and hate and stuff like that?
I do, but surprisingly, I think because I don't talk as much, I don't get as much because it's like, what are you gonna critique me on? Really? So it's like I feel like it kind of shuttles me, but I do get some on just different stuff. It's just be random though. Yeah. But I get a little negative feedback.
But there's way more positive than negative.
There's way more positive. Yeah. So many. Anything negative is like the steroid thing, or it's like I don't know, not really on the type of training, because I feel like I'm just really like in a different category when it comes to that. So I'm really seeing a lot of it. I feel like I more will come want some like vocalizing more, but I'm very open, and I try to be when I speak. I'm very like open to different stuff. So I'll say something, this is how I view it. This doesn't have to be a way for you, but I view it this way. So I try to be politically correct in that way. Like I'm very open-minded when it comes to exercise. So I'm never shutting down anything while highlighting what I do. So I feel like I don't get negative feedback because I'm never saying like, oh, this is the one true way. Like it has to be this way. I'm always like, this is what works for me. Try it if it works for you. If it doesn't, move on.
See, that should be encouraging to people, because I think that's you got two kind of, there's a camp, right? And you know, where it's like, if I stand my ground on something, there's gonna be a lot of hate, but I'm also getting a lot of followers, right? But it's like, but that approach also becomes, it can become toxic. So I think
it does.
It's, I think that it's powerful for people to hear that you're like, listen, man, like this is what I do, this is what I believe. If you wanna step in and try it out, cool. If you wanna do something else, cool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because that's the reality of it. It's like I'm never shutting down. It's like I make the analogy, I make the joke with my girlfriend about when she asked me like what type of lifter I am. I feel like I walked into a bodybuilding gym one day. I was like, oh, I love this stuff. I walked into a powerlifting, I like this. Walked into like a yoga, I need this stuff. So like I started grabbing stuff that I liked, needed, and I put it all together, and I like all the different types of way of movement. So I'm open to anything. So I'm never really shutting anything down, even if I find it weird. I'm like, well, if they made it useful, then it had to be something with it. So I'm like, all right. So I'm pretty open-minded when it comes to that. So I really don't shut anything down. That's a
great approach. I would say, like, as you start sharing more, there's probably going to be a little bit more on the hate side, but it's like, it doesn't matter, man. Because again, like, I think that when people speak, they're like, especially if once you get a certain amount of eyeballs on you and following and things like that, when you speak something, some people will be triggered by it because it feels like it's an attack. But it's not, right? Because that's their own insecurities. But unfortunately in fitness, that's what happens a lot. We need more voices that are like strong voices, but at the same time, like you said, it's like, oh, cool, you like doing that? That's fine. Like, I'm not gonna be like, your thing is shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, my thing is the best. But there's a lot of that, and
so much of it. And that stuff drives me crazy because it's like, it doesn't really build up to who you are in a positive way. Like, even if it's something you're doing and you're right, but you're highlighting it in a negative way. So when I view you as negative. And you may not be a negative individual. Yeah. But you showed me something negative, and now like I can't. And I've seen some coaches that I think are great coaches, but they highlight things so negatively. I'm like, I just can't. Like,
and then you can't absorb the message, right? Because it's like, and I feel like at the end of the day, I believe that most people, the vast majority of people, go into this space, in this industry, because there are servants, and like for you to coach people is like you get something out of. We talked about, like, it never gets old when people tell you about the results they're getting, ever, right? Like, and so there's a part servant in us. So if that's the goal, right, that got you in and keeps you going, and it's like what fuels you, but then all of a sudden you're like, man, like I gotta make a stand. And I got to shit on other people to try to make this stand, and I'm a big fan of what Simon Sinek said. He's like, look, you can have anything you want in life as long as you're not taking that shit from somebody else, right? Yeah. And to me, that's the approach of what you're saying too, which is like, hey, like, I might not agree with you, but you know what I'm saying? But whatever you believe, that's like, but I'm not gonna argue with you and put you down and do this, that, the other. I think there's some exceptions. Exceptions to me are just like people that are doing things or saying things that could be truly like hurtful or detrimental to others. Like that's where to me I'm like I draw that
line. Or you just blatantly just wrong.
It's blatantly
just
wrong.
Putting out bad information.
Like, if somebody takes that advice, like you're legitimately putting them in harm's way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
yeah, I understand that piece.
But the majority of the time, it's like, you know, it really is this argument about bullshit. That's like nobody is winning here, man.
I hate the science arguments. It's just be like, because it's so ever changing. And I told you, like at this point, I've seen some people contradict themselves because fitness changes so much. It's like we all are in a journey and we are like a part of this thing that we can never master.
Yeah.
But so many people want to act like they've mastered it, and it's changing so much. So you calling people out on stuff that may be wrong now, but before it was evidence to show like they were right. They just may not be updated on the new stuff. So it's like, just allow it to be.
You got to stay fluid, man. And it's cognitive dissonance too, right? And I think on all our parts, but that's the thing. Like I think that there's got to be much more of a gelling of people. I love that you've been on, you know, some big shows and you're talking and spreading the word, because it's like, to me, this is all like, that's why I love having conversation, is I don't have 19 questions to ask you, you know what I mean? Like, but because it's like, that's how the best stuff comes out. And I guarantee you, like if you wanted to dig, we'd probably find things that we disagree on. Yeah. But like, we'll find way more things to agree on, and we'll find a lot of things to learn from each other. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I felt like just spending these days with you. Man, it's like we're clanging and banging, we're talking, and we're like, there's a lot of insights, I'm like, you know, I'm like, hey, but what about this? What do you think about this? What do you think? And it's like, we're just getting better. Now, if I come to the table and I'm like, my ego's big and I'm like, nah, man, I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and even if there's like stuff we disagree on, I'm the type of person, I'm like, I want to understand your perspective. I think that's like the beauty thing of like humans. It's like most people, they'll shut your perspective down. I'm interested in how you see it that way and why you see it that way. So tell me how you see it that way, and I'll tell you how. So maybe we can understand, like, oh, I see why you see it like that.
Yeah, and it's like, I still might not agree, but man, like, but
that makes sense.
And the thing is, when you do that, which makes sense why you also do really well with people in person and continue to coach, right? Because it's like, this is part of what allows people to not create this barrier, right? Like, and this is a great, like, my friend Eric Cressy said this, you know, the craziest thing you can do is like, you know, you go on social media and you go like, you blast like, you know, something political, this, that, the other, but like, imagine that your client has an opinion about something, right? And then they read it from you on social, but at the same time, like you never talked to them about it, and then they're like, no, I'm not going to train with that person anymore. But in person, you get along, like you agree on most things, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the understanding piece, right? Because if you have to be a human that can connect well to be able to do well in this space. And I think whether it's offline or online, you know what I mean? Which is like, how do you improve that? And like this has been a great point that we've talked about, is like, training is dope, is, you know, geek out on it, this, that, the other, but you could be so good here and people don't like you, you don't communicate well, like you're an asshole, you'll never be successful in this business. Like,
and I've been that. It's because if you think it's what works. It's like knowing it all, being a trainer, doing it all, try not to be too much relationship wise, just stay strictly business, and then you have no business. Like there's a people piece of it that's very important, and like understanding perspectives. Like you said, like disagreeing. I actually like disagreeing with people because I like perspective. And there's so many times where I've been wrong and someone gave me a perspective on it and I steal their perspective. It's like, all right, that makes sense. I was wrong. Now that's my point of view as well, because I see what you were saying. And that never happens if you just like, no, I was wrong. Like, I'm right, wrong. Like, just move on.
Yeah, you can't learn.
You can't.
And it's like, to me, those two pieces split. You got personal and you got trainer. And there's a lot of people that work on the trainer. They don't work enough on the personal.
No.
You know, but if you master the personal, man, like you'll be able to do, like, build a business like you built, where you have like two successful components of that. You know what I mean? Man,
and that's the goal, ain't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, no, it is. Like, because I know, like, you mentioned this as far as like, man, like, you love doing what you're doing in person. It helps you be a better, better online as far as creating programs and programming and everything else, but also multiple revenue streams for security to be able to make decisions and build your career the way that you want to. Talking about opening a gym, and it's like, yeah, like both of these help you, because the moment you open a gym, you already have all these clients, but you also have an online brand, a lot of eyeballs to be able to, I mean, that's the hardest thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not build it and they'll come, doesn't work. You know what I mean?
That's not.
Yeah, you know that too. It's like, but being able to have an audience that then go like, hey, by the way, like, here's what I'm doing. I'm about to open this community, and you have people that follow you know your philosophy. They know what you're about. Is going to help them gravitate towards that, right? So it really, when you connect the dots, like that in person, like taking who you are and the job that you're doing in person and then taking it online and kind of having a megaphone to spread that, I think is the key, because now it just gives you a bigger pool and it gives you possibilities. Because if you don't, here's the thing, right? Like we talked about this. If you don't want to go do YouTube, you don't have to. It doesn't, but there's all these possibilities for you because you've created so much value in a platform that now it's like, let me do this. Let me do this. But it's like there's a lot of work involved to get to that place, and I love that. Like, again, you're sharing how you got there, and I always try to like shine a spotlight on it, both on all the philosophies. But man, listen, appreciate you. Like, you already know we could be here for hours just talking, man. Like, I mean, it was our I would say dinner conversation was like shit, like 3.5 hours, bro, because it was just so, again, we were diving deep, and I think this is the other part that's so important in the industry, is like connect to people, reach out. The way that we connected was like through social media. Started talking and was like, man, if you ever want to come out here, come through. And then here you are. You know what I'm saying? I'm so glad that you did. But apart from, listen, where can people find out more about you? I would certainly believe that a lot of people do, but there's probably a lot of coaches that don't follow you, and there's a lot of coaches on this podcast, on this show. What's the best place to kind of find you?
Instagram, Every Goddamn Dre. TikTok, Every Goddamn Dre. YouTube, Adriell Mays. I'm always.
What's your site?
My website is Kettlebell Functional Training.
Kettlebell Functional Training. Yeah. Okay, good. So you got a good name. So guys, make sure you check it out. Again, look, I'm a big fan too of what I said is like, go see what people are doing, invest in their stuff, because you're gonna learn so much from it. And also, if this was valuable to you, like the way this show grows, we up until this point haven't had sponsors, but we do have a sponsor now, Vagara Pro. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But listen, it's like spread the word, because like we want more people to be following the right people in this industry that are doing great work, that are giving back, that are delivering way more value than they're ever asking for, right? We're like 1,000 times give than ask, and this guy is one of them. So make sure you follow him, make sure you spread the show. Love and appreciate you guys. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.